summoned the courage to make bold, decisive, far-reaching, and long-term decisions to once and for all put our country on the path to attaining its full socio-economic potential. The choices. The choices we've made over the last year were neither easy, populist, nor convenient. They were, however, meaningful, appropriate, and necessary. In the short term, painful, but in the long term, gainful. 2023 is the year we decided to stop wastage and extravagance, instead opting to live within our means. We decided to cut expenditure by up to 400 billion shillings so as to reduce our borrowing. We decided to enhance our tax revenues by Kenya shillings 600 billion to fund our programs and development so as to safeguard our sovereignty and independence. Ladies and gentlemen, we certainly cannot be independent if we are enslaved by monumental debt, as has been the case. We take pride in the strides we've made as a nation. We have triumphed over the threat of economic stagnation and are now in secure space with regard to our sovereign debt obligations. Inflation has reduced to 6.8% and our GDP is growing at a rate of 5.4%, placing Kenya as the 29th fastest growing economy in the world. In 2023, we decided to get rid of consumption subsidies that not only drove our nation into deeper financial distress, but were also unsustainable, opaque, and only benefited middlemen at the expense of those who truly deserved support. Instead, we deliberately redirected our focus to support production through incentives in our crops, livestock, and fisheries programs. Today, with the blessing of good weather, thanks to God, these interventions have enabled us increase our food productivity by 40% at a fraction of the previous cost. Working with farmers, our foremost patriots, we shall double our efforts in 2024 until we reduce our Kenya shillings 500 billion food import bill to zero and rid our country of the shame of hunger. In 2023, we decided that growing our economy, as has been the case in the past, was not enough. Change was an inevitable imperative. As such, we rolled out an economic growth model intentionally designed to be inclusive, deliberately expanding opportunities and creating jobs. Millions of jobs, all types of jobs, construction jobs, technical jobs, digital jobs, as well as entrepreneurial opportunities, both locally and abroad. Our housing program, for example, not only provides decent home ownership for millions, including some slum dwellers who now live in squalor, but it also aims to reverse agricultural land fragmentation and has already created 120,000 jobs with plans to employ an even greater multiple of people next year. For the first time, my Mama Mboga and Boda Boda friends will now have a chance to own a home in our Kenya shillings 4,000 a month, 3% interest rate tenant purchase scheme. That will be the case for other Kenyans on our 6% affordable housing and 9% market housing program. All these housing programs will be at a single digit interest rates, which is half the current rates. Ladies and gentlemen, our digital superhighway infrastructure with 22,000 computers being supplied is already creating thousands of jobs in our technical and vocational education and training institutions. Even as we roll out our ICT hubs in every ward and every constituency in Kenya. Our international jobs program is well on course, having negotiated many bilateral labor agreements to open up opportunities for employment for Kenyans globally. Our collective efforts have not only rescued us from economic paralysis, but propelled us towards a brighter future. We navigated complex debt situations, accelerated economic progress, and invested significantly in our human capital. Recognizing the pivotal role of education, we increased allocation to the education sector by Kenya shillings 127 billion, which enabled us enhanced capitation for our learners, bringing us closer to the dream of universal education from ECD to the tertiary level. We also employed 56,000 teachers to improve access to quality education throughout Kenya. We have equally made immense progress in promoting financial inclusion and dignity of Kenyans at the lower economic echelons. The Hustler Fund and the NSSF new contribution model exemplify our dedication to inclusive growth, financial well-being, and social security for all Kenyans. We have made affordable credit available to millions of Kenyans who for years were alienated and underserved by financial institutions. The Hustler Fund has disbursed over Kenya's shillings 42 billion to Kenyans in just 1 year, making it the largest financial inclusion program in Kenya. And most importantly, over 7 million Kenyans are now regular customers, transacting and doing business, freed from the bondage of Shylocks and predatory lenders. Kenyans who would otherwise not make it beyond the watchman at the financial institution now access close to 100 million shillings from the Hustler Fund every single day. We shall continue to improve and expand the range of products offered under this revolutionary intervention. Similarly, our universal health coverage program has set in motion a transformative approach to health delivery, with 100,000 community health promoters actively contributing to the betterment of our nation's health. We are witnessing the tangible impact of our dedication to the well-being of people. In the new year, we continue our health transformation at the secondary and tertiary health levels, emphasizing the need for a fair contribution system for social health insurance, as the previous setup disproportionately burdened and alienated low-income earners from accessing health care. For the first time, ladies and gentlemen, every Kenyan, without exception, will have health insurance, and all Kenyans will access treatment, including for notorious chronic conditions like cancer, hypertension, and diabetes, without discrimination. These are only brief highlights of the work done and progress made this year. I acknowledge we do not have a strong history of commitment to positive transformation or a culture of consistent promise-keeping in our political leadership. This may explain why many anticipated that this administration would abandon the commitments we made under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. It is in this context, for example, that I understand the invitation by some for us not to honor our commitment on account that they are either too onerous or simply unattainable. For the record, I want to tell them, we are breaking new ground and charting a new political culture for Kenya. Instead of excuses to abandon our nation's transformation, I invite the skeptics, opponents, and the indifferent to change their perspective and embrace our new paradigm shift to pursue inclusive growth with a sense of urgency, where leaders say what they mean and mean what they say. Yet, as we celebrate all the achievements made so far, a number of our policies, programs, and other strategic interventions aimed at delivering necessary and urgent interventions of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda have been delayed, obstructed, and hampered by various challenges, including persistent litigation. There is nothing wrong with challenging policy and holding government to account. And in fact, the national interest is best safeguarded in an environment defined by the competition of progressive ideas, where a good proposal gives way to a better one. We all have a duty to make sure that the best ideas always prevail in enhancing the well-being of the people and making this nation prosperous and powerful. That is what our democracy exists to achieve. You will agree with me that there is something fundamentally wrong with opposition without any viable alternative, whose only purpose is division, conflict, and anarchy. There is something wrong with litigation sponsored by hostage-taking vested interests with the sole aim to delay, derail, and sabotage the delivery of public programs and defeat public interest. Time